videoing, or are we just audioing?
Yeah, well, it's for radio, so I've never really bothered to get a camera.
Oh, you don't care? You don't care what I look like on radio?
No, that's fine.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Firstly, I've got to congratulate you on the birth of your twins.
Thank you. Yes, I have my hands full. Well, not presently. My friend Wendy is holding them, but yes, thank you.
So, so how is parenthood and music career getting along so far?
Well, I actually got out and wrote with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago. It was my first time writing since they were born. And then we demoed up our song, which was, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment to actually use my brain and use that, songwriting muscle. So I'm looking forward to getting back out a little bit more, getting writing more. It's hard on my own because, I really would have to do it in the middle of the night or really, really early in the morning because there's just not a lot of time otherwise.
Yeah.
But it'll get easier.
They're not your first, are they?
No, apparently I'm supposed to have a lot of children. No, I think no, we have a 2.5-year-old little boy, and then yeah, we were trying for number two, and we got two and three.
Two and
So
three.
we're done. We're good.
So do you think you'll ever master the art of juggling time between family and career?
I'm not sure. That I think that's a little more difficult unless you've got a lot of tour support and a big bus,
Yeah.
where you can bring a nanny on the road and you can make it work. And actually, that could be really fun if you could coordinate it around schoolwork and things. Or like your native Aussie, Casey Chambers did it growing up, where they just got in the van and traveled all over Australia.
Yeah, she seems to have got it down right. She's doing well.
Wow. Yeah, the way they were raised just on the road, it sounds pretty cool. So there's a part of me that appeals to, but I think in reality, it's just, I think I'll be able to get out and do more shows as they get a little bigger.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to be doing the kind of touring I used to do. I think my career is going to be focusing more on the writing end of things, writing and recording.
Just looking back to the beginning and the singers and the songwriters that inspired you, can you pinpoint a uniform quality they all had?
I think honesty. I think I was always really drawn to singer-songwriters that were introspective and honest and shared a little bit of themselves with us. So, people like Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne and, that was always my favorite stuff. I always loved the big commercial songs that they would do, but my favorites on the records would be their more introspective work that allowed me a little glimpse into their lives, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that very much shows through in your songs as well. If we'd gone fossicking through your record collection way back then, those are the sort of artists we would have found.
Totally, and yeah, and definitely, people like Sean Colvin, and I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Brooke, and singer-songwriters that, yeah, that tell a story but are also personal.
Tell us about the area that you grew up in Minnesota. Has some of that area or the environment and the surrounds rubbed off in the music that you make today?
Maybe. I mean, I think I had a pretty idyllic childhood in a lot of ways, as far as there was a lot of time outside and a lot of time laying in the grass and looking up at the clouds and doing a little daydreaming. And, I felt like there was a lot of room and space for dreaming and possibility. And so I think in sort of an abstract way, my childhood, my environment had a lot of impact on my writing. And, it's interesting because sort of the northern, the Minnesota sensibilities you can find them anywhere, any small town, anywhere. So I think there are places in the South that remind me of Minnesota. The people, it's just the accents are different and the food's a little different.
Yeah.
But it's that small town feeling where kids are outside and they're allowed to run and be free without a lot of, nervousness and fear.
Doing the research for this interview and looking at some other articles, something that came up quite a bit was the mention that you had no television in your home growing up. How much do you think that had a role in putting you on the path to seeking creative outlets of your own?
Oh, I think it was huge. I mean, I definitely, I think it got me reading really early. And I think when you read, your imagination is working, and you're creating those characters, and you're imagining what they look like. And I mean, I think it opened up a lot of possibility and imagination for me, not having that television. I mean, we have a TV now in our house. We don't watch it much, but I'm aware of how strong a pull it has, especially now with my almost 3-year-old little boy, and he doesn't watch much TV. He has a couple shows that we let him watch, but video and visual is very powerful.
Yeah.
And it's not at that point where it's an addictive thing. He loves to play with his toys and do imaginative play, but I can see where it could be pretty numbing if you just kind of sat your kid in front of it, and it's a babysitter that way. But I'm really grateful to my parents that they chose not to have the TV.
Sure. So was you ever destined for another career path, or was it always going to be music?
Well, I was a theater major in college, so I think I knew I wanted to perform, and I love the theater. And I love, there's something about the collaborative experience of live theater, as well as a collaborative experience in co-writing. So, I mean, I really like creating something with people, if that makes sense, whether
Yeah.
it's a band or, being in a play. For a brief while, I thought I might want to be a vet when I was little. But I shadowed a vet for a few days, and I didn't think I would like sort of the sad part of being a vet. So I'm just sort of I'm just a pet owner that knows a lot about. I could hang up my own shingle and probably do pretty well just from all my pets and their illnesses and ailments. But yeah, that was my other thing. I think now if I had to all of a sudden make an about turn, I might go into something like landscape architecture.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. I don't know. That appeals to me.
What about those acting ambitions you had back then? Is that a pursuit you'd still like to try one day?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did I did on camera and some TV and film work before my music really took off, and that requires a full commitment as well. And for me, it just really was. I wanted to. The music spoke more to my heart, and I felt like I couldn't do both. And music was just that was my own expression. With acting, you're saying other people's words, and it was important for me to figure out what it was that I wanted to say. But I think, who knows? Maybe I'll be in the local community theater group. I don't know. But to go on auditions and really pursue a professional acting career. Maybe maybe later in life. Maybe when I'm an old lady, I'll those plum old lady parts. I don't know.
You were writing songs at a young age. Can you pinpoint a time when you really started to develop a confidence within yourself as a writer?
That the confidence. I mean, I would have spurts of confidence enough that I would play my songs for people in high school. Maybe at a school function, and then. So I would feel brave and perform, and then I would immediately say, why did you do that? Why did you put yourself out there like that? But I think that the confidence really came probably, later in college when I really started writing. And a friend of mine, just various people I had met in my life at that point in time were songwriters and had made their own records and encouraged me to write what I know and to put it out there. And so it probably, that happened, I guess, around college. That's when I started, I picked up guitar and was able to accompany myself. That was huge to be able to, because you can't drag a piano around everywhere, but you can always pick up a guitar and take that with you.
You sang in a jazz band for a while too, is that right?
I did, yes.
Were you ever destined to go down the jazz path? Or?
Well, I love that kind of music. I definitely do, and I think it's very challenging for a vocalist. Yeah, I don't know. I think, but I think lyrically, not that I couldn't have written in that style. I just didn't. I think my jazz chops weren't. Being a singer, I felt like I could run with the big dogs in that. I mean, I felt like I had that the skill
Mhm.
from a vocal perspective, but I mean, I'm not a jazz guitar player,
Yeah.
so and I can play some jazz inversions and things on the piano when I'm writing. Enough that my stuff can. If anything, it would have been maybe inspired by some of the older standards, things like that. But I think on the guitar, I don't know that I would have been writing in a jazz style. I don't. I'm a singer-songwriter guitar player.
Yeah.
I play a lot of those expensive chords on the guitar.
I believe you have a brother who's involved in trance music. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, he's based out of Lisbon, and he goes by the name DJ Ocelot, like the small jungle cat. Yeah.
Ver-
So look him up. He travels all over the world, and yeah, he's a wonderful trance artist. That's a whole scene that I don't know anything about,
It,
but
it,
apparently it's huge. Yeah.
it's really interesting to see siblings both involved in music, but two very different forms of music. How do you think that came to be?
Yeah, it is. I don't know because we had the same upbringing and we listened to the same stuff. So it's very interesting that I'm a verse, chorus, 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 chorus kind of gal, and he's all about the build and the vibe. And I remember I was visiting him in San Francisco when he lived there, and he gave me a disc of some chill stuff that he had just written. And he's like, "Don't listen to this while driving." And I put it on in the car. Sure enough, for about 5 minutes, I was like, "He is right," because this is me to sleep. But it was very hypnotic and cool, and his stuff was really cinematic. So I think he would do great scoring film and doing things like that. Um, but yeah, that's a whole. It's interesting that we have such different musical
Yeah.
tastes.
Speaking of cinematic, I was introduced to your music way back when I took my 8-year-old daughter to go and see the movie because of Winn-Dixie. It prompted me to seek out more of your music. It's an outstanding medium to get your music out there to people who may not hear it otherwise. Is that something
Yeah.
you'd like to continue to do?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, it definitely is something. I think film and TV is kind of the new radio in a lot of ways, of getting stuff out there. So much of, especially here in the States, commercial radio, terrestrial radio is very limited. Um, and so I think for people to be able to be heard, film and TV and advertising obviously are great mediums to be able to get stuff out there in a way that would be difficult otherwise. So yeah, and in fact, this tune I wrote a couple weeks ago with my co-writer was actually an assignment from my film and TV gal who gave me an assignment to write for a TV pitch. So and that's kind of an interesting way. You want to write a song that feels real and true to you, but then you want to think, could this make a good licensing song? You know, different hats you have to wear.
That's right, yeah. I saw a YouTube clip of you the other day in the recording studio. It may have been for the Sunflower session. It looked like a very relaxed environment. Is the
Oh,
studio a comfortable environment for you?
it is. I love the studio. I wish I had the luxury of being able to write in the studio. That just gets expensive, because you're burning up time. But I always am really envious when I hear about artists who say, "Yeah, and then we just got together and then we played and we wrote this record in the studio." They must own the studio. That must be the situation. So, but yeah, I love recording, and that was fun. That was a great group of people to be working with on that album. Um, it was a perfect environment. Andrew Williams produced that record, and he just, he created a wonderful, nurturing, warm environment for us to record.
You strike me as somebody who, although more commercial success would be nice, you seem to be more concerned with reaching an audience and moving them on a more personal level. Would that be a fair comment?
I mean, I think that's a fair comment. Sure. Yeah, I think for me, it's always been about, did it speak to me and does it speak to others? But does it speak to me first? And yeah, maybe maybe if I'd played the game more, maybe I would have been a little more commercially successful. But it is what it is, and I think you can have both. And so I think the the challenge for any artist, I think, is achieving that balance. How do you stay true to your art and still make a living,
Yeah.
especially in today's environment? I think it was easier back in the day. You could be an artist, you could take your time, you could take some risks, and they just don't. The window is so small these days. I think there's a lot of artists that wouldn't have been signed today. They would have definitely been underground indie artists. So, yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
No, I don't. This is what I do, so I don't know. I don't know to do anything else.
Yeah.
I would like for people to hear it, but
Tell us about Danny Morrick and how you first teamed up with him.
well, Danny is a good friend, and we were introduced by an EM. I was an EMI songwriter, and one of my fellow songwriters invited him in on a co-writing session, and Danny and I just hit it off right away. We're both preachers' kids. He grew up in South Mississippi, and I grew up in northern Minnesota, and two very different parts of the United States, but yet we had very similar upbringings, and we just really connected on a musical level. And he's a great singer, and he's a great harmony singer, and so we both have a love for that, and it was just really a blast making music with him. So we'd written a bunch, and I wanted him to produce my Love Remains record with me, and then we had written a bunch of songs that felt like duets. So we made our little duo project together, and it was fun. That was really fun. And both were very effortless and very relaxed, and yeah, I'm really proud of those records. I think there's some great songs on there.
So, how does the songwriting process work between the two of you when you do write together? Does it differ from song to song, or there is a set procedure?
I guess sometimes it differs. Well, it's the same procedure. Sometimes someone will bring more to the table initially than the other. Sometimes I'll come in with a pretty strong idea musically, and he'll help me kind of finish it up. Or sometimes we both start from scratch. That's usually how it happens. It comes out of a conversation, and we're talking, and then we'll come up with our theme or a phrase, or and I'll say, "What do you think of this?" Or he'll play me a little melody or a progression that he's working on, and we'll kind of build from the ground up, lyrically and musically.
And the duo project, did you go into that specifically to want it to be a project that was clearly distinguished from your solo work?
Well, we'd been writing. We had written a bunch of songs where we were trading vocals, and we thought, gosh, that would be really fun to do more of that. I guess probably about halfway through, when we had about 5 or 6 songs, where he had a lot of vocal parts, as well. It wasn't just harmony vocals. And we thought, well, let's make a duo record. So we probably had written about half of it, and then thought, all right, let's finish it up and write with that in mind. Yeah, that's just kind of, it sort of evolved organically that way.
Yeah. For you personally, though, is songwriting something that gets easier with experience?
I think, I guess, when does it get easier? I think I'm able to sort of filter more easily now. I think as I'm going, I can kind of edit a little faster maybe than I used to, and just say, man, yeah, I'm not so sure about that idea, or but what if we went here? Or I think I'm more efficient in my songwriting as I've had experience. But the muse is the muse. So we're still, I think, from the moment if you're a beginning songwriter or you're 80 years old and writing songs, you're still hoping that it doesn't dry up. And gosh, am I going to get another idea? And where's that idea going to come from? And what's it going to be like? I still am surprised and amazed every time that I get inspired by something. And that's what's so fun is, you're writing the song and you finish it and you think, that was cool. Where did that come from?
You mentioned earlier how you had a love for reading at a young age, and you founded an organisation called Rock for Reading. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, I think Rock for Reading came out of, I'd written a song on my self-titled record, my Columbia record, with Kristen Hall and Emily Salyers from Indigo Girls. and it was called I'll Start With Me. And it was just all about sort of the problems in the world and how you can get overwhelmed with all of the things we'd like to change, but the only person we can really control is ourselves. I mean, what am I doing about it? What am I doing to make it better? And so I'll Start With Me came out of that conversation. And when I got off the road and had a little bit of time, I thought, all right, now what am I going to do? I'm going to start with myself here. What can I do to make a difference? And because reading was such an important thing to me growing up, and my husband was an English major and studied film, and literacy and reading were really important to him. And another friend of ours, a rock photographer named Paul Natkin, was a huge avid reader. And so we got together and founded this nonprofit out of Chicago. And, we're in our 10th year, and we've given away over 1 million new books and raised a bunch of money for community and grassroots literacy and reading programs. Just, people making a difference in their communities where maybe a $10,000 grant is a big deal. So, and then we also had concerts where we were able to bring musicians in and have them talk about why reading was important to them. And, David Gray talking about how his grandmother used to bring him to the library when he was little, or Lucinda Williams, whose father was, a poet laureate. And, all really, really interesting musicians, talking about why the written word has informed their songwriting. So that's been a really great experience.
Fantastic. And just before I let you go, Alice, upcoming plans. There's a new year approaching. What's in the books?
Well, I mean, other than other than getting out of the house more and writing some songs, yeah, I would like to work on. I don't know if it's going to be a record or what. I'm not really sure what the landscape looks like out there. Do I make another record? Do I just start writing music and just put it up? Do I? What I'd love to do, since I'm not going to be touring as much, at least in the next couple years with the babies being so young, is, writing new tunes and then getting in the studio and maybe doing like live filming of those songs, and then just putting them up on YouTube just so that people can see what I'm doing. I mean, so it's not even so much a thought of, and I'm going to, the traditional route, I'm going to make a record and then I'm going to tour and I'm hoping to sell this. It's just, I think I just want to keep creating, and I want to stretch out a little bit and put that music out there. So I guess just, keep coming, keep posted, but keep checking in, and hopefully I'll have some new stuff, maybe by the spring or next fall, certainly.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing that in whatever form it may be, and hopefully we'll see you down here sometime. If not for a tour, at least for a holiday with the kids.
Well, I would love that, and I've always wanted to go to Australia, and one of my managers was from Australia. So I don't know. Did you know Gary Rabin?
I've heard the name. Yeah, don't know him personally.
Yeah. So, and I've always wanted to go. So that would be great. I would love that.
Alice, thanks so much for taking us some of your mum time out of the way to chat to us today.
It was like a vacation. Thanks, John.
Pleasure catching up with you, and best of luck with everything. We look forward to some new music sometime down the track.
Thanks much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.